If you've ever thought to yourself as a jazz piano player, how do I go about learning a new jazz standard? Then I think this video is going to be very helpful to you. Hey, it's Tobey here from Jazzmentl.com. Thanks for joining me for another one of my tutorials. In this video, I'm going to learn a new jazz standard. Now, it's not something that I haven't heard before, like many jazz standards. The tune is called Skylark. And I messed around a little bit with it before this video, but essentially, I don't know it at all. So I'm going to go through a 3-step process that I normally go through when I learn a new jazz standard. And by the time you get through that 3-step process, near the end of the video, you'll have a pretty good idea of how I approach it. And I trust that you'll get a few ideas from it to help inspire you to go out and learn a new jazz standard today. So let's go to step 1. What is that for me? It is getting inspiration and ideas. Sure, it's one thing to just sit down, start to play the tune, maybe look at it, go through the changes, things like that. And it's another thing to be inspired to do that and maybe grab some ideas from some other great players. So that's what we're going to do first. I've researched a little bit on YouTube. All you have to do is go to YouTube and search for the name of the jazz standard and put jazz piano or solo jazz piano or something. And I'm sure you're going to find at least 20 different versions of it. And I found 3, 2 of them on YouTube, 1 of them on Facebook. Let's go through them one by one and get a few ideas. The first one is a player that I'd never heard of. His name is Hiroshi Nakamura. Let's listen a little bit. He likes to roll his chords. So impressions from that and ideas, I think some nice anticipating chords. He did a 2-5 of A flat in which he did an E half diminished seventh, it looked like, and an A7 flat 9 chord leading to the A flat, which was kind of nice, which is unorthodox. And then he did a couple of minor anticipations of the next chord. In other words, minor second leading to the next chord. And again, he did roll his chords quite a lot. Let's listen to the next player. This one you'll know quite well. It's Jarrett. Nice 2-5 there. Very nice. Nice chord there. Just this clusters. Some feedback from the microphone. Now, of course, I would probably listen to the whole thing and get inspired from that. You'll notice that at some point the bass and drums came in, and that's pretty typical of Jarrett to start a tune and then bass player and drummer come in at some point and they get into rhythm a little bit, but at the same time, he's keeping it pretty loose in terms of rhythm. So he's playing rubato over top of straight time, which is kind of nice. That's a good idea. All right, let's listen to the last player. I found this one on the Facebook Jazz Pianist group, and this is what inspired me to go after the tune Skylark. Somebody named Mike Del Ferro, who is apparently a well-recognized piano player. And I listened to his quick version on Facebook. Let's listen to it. That was nice there. Looks like he anticipated the E flat with a half step below. I mean, D7 chord. All right, so there's 3 piano players that we can draw inspiration and ideas from. When it comes to the last one, he used a lot of eighth notes. So the eighth notes not just were in the melody, but they were also in the bass itself. So he kept those eighth notes flowing throughout a lot of the presentation. All right, so then we come to step 2. Now that we've got inspiration and a few ideas, step 2 for me is always just learning the tune. What is the melody note and what are the standard changes for that tune? For that, we turn to the real book. In this particular case, we're going to go to the New Real 1 version. If you don't have the New Real 1 book, you can probably pick that up somewhere, but there's plenty of versions of Skylark out there. You can probably find them on the internet somewhere. And to me, this kind of looks like the standard changes, but also when I see things like this, where you've got things in brackets here, that's alternate changes. So somebody has taken the time to maybe reharmonize it. They might have heard a recording somewhere and they thought, hey, it's a good idea to throw this in there as alternate ideas, maybe for the second A section. So what I do right now in step 2 is just play through the tune with the original changes to see if I can grab some ideas just by listening to it. So let's just play it. Yeah, so I'm definitely not going to stick with that. I'm going to figure out my own reharmonization and we're going to do that together, which is step 3. So step 2 is playing through the entire tune a few times using the original changes, just trying to get a sense of the melody and the structure of the tune. In this case, I'm not going to play it all because it's going to take too much time, but it's an AABA tune. So the A repeats itself 3 times and the B section is the bridge. So we're going to work on the A section, and that's step 3 is this sort of reharmonization process that makes it your own. That's what you want to do. You don't want to just copy other players. You want to figure out your own changes and be different. So I want to be different than all those 3 players while drawing inspiration and ideas from them. So the first thing is I've got this E flat 6 chord. Definitely you want to play the root on the first chord. You could play an introduction, but that comes later. So just this big chord here. And then I think, okay, I'm heading to maybe the A flat major chord, or maybe that's the destination. So play it. So you want to move up with the piano in the bass line because you can see that the bass is moving from E flat to F to G to A flat. Pretty standard, but to me, it's still a little bit hokey. So I'm thinking somewhere in here, throw in an F sharp chord. Go immediately to the F sharp chord. So F sharp diminished to the F minor, and then to G. You can see that there's a G chord, but instead of E flat over G, we're going to do G7, looks like sharp 9, sharp 5 up there. This, to me, when I see things like this, where you've got a descending melody, I think block chords, especially when they're in a row like that. So it's just going down the scale. And immediately we just found something. Put in extra notes though. Nice. So. And then when we get to the E flat chord, think about inner voices, and one of the inner voices that you can use is a flat 5. So going to the 6th, right? So or just like that maybe. Interesting. So we started with inner voices, and then when we get to the A7 chord, from the E flat to the D flat, keeping those inner voices moving. So here, not all of this, but you know, G to C somehow. I've got G7. We've had this chord before. We're going to F. Keep the inner voices going. That's just going up in half steps, finding chords that work over top. And so we've reached our destination, which in this case is B flat. We're doing a sus chord here. And this is what I'm doing. In step 3, I'm making notes on the sheet music so that I can remind myself of what to play. Nice cluster here. I never go to root. I want to go to the 3rd here. So just an open voicing for G. So it's like an F sus chord over G. Interesting. So when I get to things like this, where you're an octave above middle C, so the C5 section, anything that's up there, you can start to throw in lots of clusters and maybe bass them out at some point with a bass note, but sometimes just stands on its own. So just changing some inner voices. So what I've done here is just, it's like an E flat diminished chord and then melody, but duplicate it with the root, with the left hand. Change the chord. So just change a note. So B major 7 over F. And I'm working on these 2 chords right here. Back to the top, or the 2nd section. And each time you play it, you're going to find new ideas that just spring out of nowhere. So you can play the F sharp, or sorry, the F minor chord. And of course, What I would do now is just go into the B section, and if there's a little bit of difference in the B section, handle that, find some reharmonization for that, and then of course we'd eventually get to the bridge. But I don't want to take up all of your time. I just wanted to give you a sense of my process for learning jazz standards. Just as a reminder, it's a three-step process. One, Google it or YouTube it, go find some inspiration from other players, at least 3 of them, maybe more. Listen to their entire renditions and grab some great ideas. You're not obviously going to copy them, but you are going to find some inspiration and some thought processes that they go through. And then you get to step 2, which is grab the real book, learn the melody, learn the original chord changes, at least give you a head start on it rather than trying to lift it from other players. And then move on to step 3 once you know the tune and start to reharmonize it and make it your own. That's really what being a great jazz piano player is all about. Finding your own voicings and your own rendition of it that's going to sound great to the ears, but also different from other players. I hope that's helpful to you. That's my process. If you have any questions about it, you can put them in the comments below. And if you want me to actually write out at some point an entire reharmonization of Skylark so that you can learn it and draw inspiration from that, please put that in the comments as well, and I'll see what I can do. So what are you going to do now? Go out and grab a new standard, maybe Skylark or something new to you, and get inspired and go do it and make it your own. What are you going to do after that? Well, you might want to learn something new as well. I would suggest you might want to go and check out this video.